Hey, it's me, Griffin, the host of Past.Present.Future. Thanks for coming by. The new year is sure to be full of fantastic stories, but today I'm running down my 5 favorite horror comics of 2021. The year saw a ton of high quality horror stories with unique hooks and different perspectives, so let's get into it. Number 5 for me this year was The Silver Coin, Image's comics horror anthology book from artist Michael Walsh, and an absolutely stacked list of writers alternating each issue. The stories range in theme, concept, and time period, with the connecting thread of the mysterious silver coin bringing calamity to all those who find it. Zdarsky, Thompson, Lemire, Brisson, V, Williamson, Ayala, and more all contributed stories this year. A who's who of my favorite people writing today. Walsh serves as the through line creatively, turning in memorable pages every issue full of story appropriate style and mood. I can't wait to see what Walsh has up his sleeve for the next batch of issues and where the coin will end up next. 4. Leaf Peepers Beware, the Autumnal from Krauss, Sheehan, Wordie, and Campbell brings us a horror story about the prettiest fall town in New England. Conceptually fresh and full of haunting atmosphere, the Autumnal has a strong, relatable lead and a central mystery rooted deep in Old Town history that feels believably grounded in its New Hampshire setting. Sheehan and Wordie bring that setting to life, from the beautifully colored piles of leaves to the more monstrous offerings as the evils at play move to the forefront. I'm a sucker for that small town hidden history mystique, coupled with generational drama, and no book I read this year delivered on that more than the Autumnal. Side note, Vault Comics had a great 2021, and if you're not paying attention to them, you're missing out on some true gems. Now, I'm going to say a series of words that are going to sound unrelated. Haunted houses, mecha, punk rock. My third pick is Homesick Pilots, and somehow Dan Waters and Casper Wijngaard have married these three worlds, bringing to life one of the most original concepts in comics this year. Homesick Pilots is about a punk band and a house full of ghosts. A house that eats people. A house that also begins walking around with a little help and fights other non-traditional haunted mecha. It's dripping with that 90s punk authenticity and captures a very specific cultural niche with enough heart that anyone could connect to it. Belonging, society, scene politics, and personal responsibility are all touched on by Waters, while the pinks and blues dominate Wijngaard's palette, punctuated with the red of bloody gore. Aditya Bidikar's lettering complements the art and concept subtly, with speech bubbles that accent character and events and round curvy letters. The monster designs and concepts are fantastic, and seeing them in action feels big. Listen, you write a haunted house mecha with punk bands, and I'm gonna love it. You use that setup to destroy Nazi punks and white supremacist ideology? How could it not be one of the best books of the year? This book feels seriously slept on in a year full of solid music adjacent releases like What's the Furthest Place from Here and Radio Apocalypse. Wake up, because it's incredible. It would be impossible to have a top 5 horror list without Immortal Hulk, which comes in at number 2. It would also be impossible to talk about its positives without addressing fascist supporter and regular series artist Joe Bennett. Fuck fascists and fuck anti-Semites. Still, Ewing has crafted a 50-issue epic and stuck his landing with Immortal Hulk, creating emotionally grounded body horror with some truly impressive line work from the aforementioned Bennett, with monstrous designs as grotesque as Bennett's political opinions. This is a Hulk story unlike any I've ever read, deeply psychological and grounded in generational trauma, while also expanding the legacy and history of the Marvel Universe and its gamma-powered characters. It works as a self-contained journey with a definitive beginning and end, so rare in Big Two books. Before we get to my number 1 horror comic of the year, I'm going to quickly shout out 2 honorable mentions. The first, The Me You Love in the Dark from writer Scotty Young and artist George Corona, is a 5-issue comic we've talked about on the show before. It uses a haunted house setup as a metaphor for abusive relationships in a way I haven't really seen explored before, and it captures the early stages of manipulation and control super well. Stray Dogs is a deceptively cartoonish story from Trish Forstner and Tony Fleeks about a gaggle of dogs and a serial killer. The Disney movie meets Silence of the Lambs approach is incredibly effective, easily one of the best animal protagonist books I've ever read, with real tension and dread. A follow-up just recently began, and I'm looking forward to checking it out. So here we are, at the end. My favorite horror book of the year is The Nice House on the Lake. When looking back at the year and thinking of issues that made the biggest impact, It would be folly not to highlight issue 1 of The Nice House on the Lake, which came out the gate full throttle and delivered one of the most chilling cliffhangers of the year. The pacing and atmosphere were perfect, crescendoing for an unforgettable finish. And for the rest of the 6-issue first season, James Tynion and Alvaro Martinez Bueno continued to fire on all cylinders, creating an entire mythology. Nice House sees a deep and fully realized friend group reuniting for a getaway at a lake house, with a twist I won't discuss, and a very specific, eerie world from Bueno. The biggest problem with the book is that talking about its plot would ruin the reveals and steal some of the tension. Nice House is a comic you need to read to experience. It's collaboration at its height. Put simply, the book wouldn't work with a different team the same way. The symbols, the design, the architecture, and the fully realized characters, it's all so impressive. One of the biggest bummers is that we're going to be waiting for a while for more. Alright, comic fans and comic curious, that's the list. Let me know what your top 5 horror books were in the comments. I'll be back with my overall 5 favorite comics of the year soon, and then regular Past, Present, Future Comics We Love episodes will follow. My guest for the first episode back is my pal Jamie, formerly of Screen Rant, and currently of Slash Film. It's going to be a blast.